Thanks everyone for coming and welcome. I'm Taylor Henry. I'm the owner of Acres USA, and I'm thrilled to host today's webinar on sea energy agriculture and ocean minerals and farming. Acres USA has long believed in the power of nature to restore and regenerate our farms, and today we're diving into a unique and fascinating part of that story, how the ocean can help and heal our soil. You're going to hear from two great speakers. First, Michael Sileck will take us back to the visionary work of Dr. Maynard Murray and the origins of Sea-90, and then Lynn Hoover will walk us through the practical on-farm applications and how Sea-90 supports soil biology, boosts fertility, and adapts to different growing environments. We'll wrap up with a live Q&A. You should be able to drop your questions into the Q&A box, and we also have quite a few questions that people submitted before the webinar. We'll try to get through as many of them as we can. Michael said that if we don't get through all of them, they'll try to get a response, and we'll send that when we send out the recording to everybody. So without further ado, I'll kick it over to Michael Sileck. And again, thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you so much, Taylor, and thank you everyone for being here. Really excited to be here with Lynn today to talk about sea energy agriculture and highlight some of the great work of Dr. Maynard Murray, Robert Kane, and other visionaries in this space. I am going to share my screen here, just make sure that this works. Can you guys see that okay?
Yes, that's good.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. So as we mentioned today, we're going to be talking about a couple of different topics, all related to sea energy and the history and the current use of ocean minerals within agriculture. So we'll start by digging into Dr. Maynard Murray's discoveries in this space and learning a little bit more about how he evolved from ocean water into sea solids and ultimately Sea-90. Then we'll talk about Robert Kane and the work that he did to really revitalize the use of ocean minerals throughout modern agriculture. And then Lynn is going to talk about some current best practices, use cases, and case studies for using Sea-90 ocean minerals throughout modern farming. Today, my name is Michael. I am I jokingly refer to myself as our Chief Mineral Officer for Sea-90 and for Baja Gold. I lead our marketing, innovation, and sales efforts for our brands here. And Lynn Hoover is our head of agronomy for Sea Agri Solutions. He has over 20 years of very diverse farming experience across dairy, crop farming, grass farming, hay production, anything that you can imagine, and really excited to share some of that history and experience with you today. Before we get going, I do want to just highlight, if you like what you hear today, there are a couple of great resources that you can dive into for more detail. First is two incredible books from Acres USA. The first is Sea Energy Agriculture, written by Maynard Murray himself, and the second is Fertility from the Ocean Deep, which is really like a sequel or a refreshment of Sea Energy Agriculture, written by Charles Walters, that really expands upon the work that Dr. Maynard Murray laid out in Sea Energy Agriculture. There's also an array of other research and prior presentations on the Sea-90 website that you can access from sea90.com. And then lastly, we have a wonderful partnership with one of the leading podcasts in the space, Working Cows. Working Cows has hosted the Sea-90 team to talk about the history of Sea-90 and a lot of the modern uses of ocean minerals several times. So we'd encourage you to check out episodes 261, 282, 312, and 418 for some more information. Now, lastly, before we get going, I did just want to highlight and kind of ground ourselves in our purpose at Sea Agri Solutions, and we believe that this purpose is very much aligned with Dr. Maynard Murray's original work, Robert Kane's work, and countless others in this space as well. Our vision is to improve our collective health and wellness for the human populace through the vitality of the ocean. And we are keenly aware that human health starts with soil health and is deeply interconnected throughout soil health, plant health, and ultimately animal health. So let's jump into the man of the hour here, Dr. Maynard Murray. The story of sea energy agriculture, of course, begins with Dr. Maynard Murray. Dr. Murray was a medical doctor, and he ultimately is the gentleman who brought this idea of using ocean water to help restore and remineralize our soils to the forefront. I'll talk shortly here about the work that led into that discovery. And as I mentioned, he wrote a book that really outlines and details all of those findings called Sea Energy Agriculture. Dr. Murray has a deep connection to Acres, and we're thrilled that we're on our webinar here today with them. He actually gave the keynote speech at Acres' annual conference in 1976, and the audio of that speech is available on our website if you would like to listen to it. And lastly, just so you see it one more time here, this is the book, Sea Energy Agriculture. If you have any questions at all or would like to learn more, this is a very quick 90-minute read that really outlines all of the concepts that Dr. Maynard Murray pioneered in this space. So that 90-minute book, I'm going to try and distill that down into a couple of slides for you. What is it that Dr. Murray learned, and how does that apply to using the ocean as a fertilizer source? Well, Dr. Murray was a medical doctor in the 40s and 50s, and he really was dismayed by the declining health of his patients. He looked around and saw that America was thriving in several different ways. We were technologically advancing, we were putting people in space, and he said, with all of this progress that's going on, why does it seem as though the patients that I see every day are actually getting less healthy and are experiencing things like cancer and cellular disease at a more rapid pace? And ultimately, after working with farmers, after working with the USDA and looking at a variety of different studies that were completed, he identified that there a correlation between a decline in human health and a decrease in the mineral content of our food supply. And so there were several different things that led up to that decrease in the mineral content of our food supply. Many of them are related to poor agricultural practices. So this could be things like monocropping, a heavy over-reliance on synthetic fertilization, herbicides, other unnatural inputs, and then of course you have the results of that, which are soil erosion, runoff, and ultimately these minerals leaving our land, and then therefore the land not having the mineral capabilities to produce mineral and nutrient-rich food for the animals that we were growing and for the humans that we were feeding. Conversely to that, Dr. Murray looked to the oceans and said, there seems to be something unique and different here. As I look at ocean life and marine life, it appears as though they have not seen this same decline in overall health. In fact, marine life that lives within the oceans, which is a naturally mineral-rich environment, is strong and thriving, and they've seen no decrease or change in their overall health over the last couple of hundred years. There were several different scientists during this time that really studied ocean water, Rene Quinton and others in this space, that ultimately led humankind to understand that ocean water is not just salt water. In fact, it's kind of a miracle solution that has over 90 minerals and trace elements, all of the naturally occurring minerals and trace elements in nature's perfect balance. Dr. Murray discovered that and observed that ocean life rarely suffers from the same cellular disease and degradation that plagues humankind and land-based life. There's a couple of great examples of this. There's a couple of fish types that can actually live within both freshwater and brackish or saltwater. And when you look at the overall health and the lifespan of those fish, the fish that live in saltwater or brackish water have a significantly better lifespan, and their overall cell structures are much healthier than that same species living in a freshwater environment without the minerals of that ocean water. Another great example that Dr. Murray highlights in his book, I believe it is a whale species, that he looked at the cells of this whale under a microscope and found that you virtually cannot distinguish between an adult whale and a child whale under a microscope. And what that points to is that over the lifespan of this animal species, when you're living within a marine environment that is rich in minerals, you are not seeing that cellular disease over the course of their lifespan. And of course, that is very different from looking at land-based life, particularly land-based life that doesn't have nutrients like minerals in their food supply. So Dr. Murray's key takeaway was oceans are a powerful source of vitality because of the minerals that naturally exist within ocean water. And he took this takeaway and said, it seems as though we have a challenge in our food supply, in our farming practices. How can I take this learning and help to infuse it throughout our farming communities to perhaps restore and change the decline in mineral density to an increase in a regeneration, a remineralization of our soils, our plants, and ultimately our food supply. So Dr. Murray first started by using pure ocean water to actually fertilize different plants in different growing environments to see if his hypothesis would work. What's fun about this is that Dr. Murray actually gave up his medical practice and committed himself fully to this idea and this concept. And one of the first people to also give up what they were currently working on and join him in these efforts was the ultimate Sea Agri founder, Robert Kane. The two of them worked together to conduct extensive research at a hydroponics farm in Florida. And ultimately, after finding success and after determining the right rates to use ocean water, they expanded these trials throughout the United States for larger, more conventional agriculture practices. So, large-scale alfalfa and grass growing, corn production, things of that nature. And Dr. Murray was successful. They were successful in restoring mineral density, which is nutrition, and improving yield and other quality metrics across pastures and row crops. And what's cool about this is not only did Dr. Murray discover that you could grow healthier plant tissue, but that when you fed that mineral-rich plant tissue to animals, those animals also thrived and saw improvements in their overall cellular health and just overall health in general. So you can see how healthier soils, when you pull that through the entire food supply chain, you can actually impact the health of everything along the way. I love this graphic here, and it touches on the next slide. This is, I believe his name is Liebig's barrel, and it talks about the law of the minimum. And the idea is that you need all of nature's minerals and trace elements to really maximize your potential yield or whatever it is from a metric standpoint that you are looking for. If you just have one piece of that barrel that might be missing, one of those trace elements, you're going to have leakage and you're not going to reach your overall potential. So it's important that you have the entirety of the mineral and trace mineral chart available for your soil, available for your plants, and available for your animals. So why was Dr. Murray successful? Kind of what I was touching on there. All minerals have a purpose. So fertilizing, of course, in this time period was not a new concept, but complete fertilizing in nature's balance and not mankind's balance truly was. So depending on the scientific journals that you're reading and the amount of information and time period that you're looking at, you might be looking at people saying there are 5 essential fertilizer elements. There are 10 essential fertilizer elements. Maybe there are 20 or even 30 that are scientifically documented. And that list continues to grow. And while it does continue to grow, we believe that we have had the answer in front of us all this time. And that is that all of nature's elements are important and play a role in soil health, plant health, and animal health. They are all critical for those cells to thrive and for what it is that's growing to thrive with it. And we believe this because these elements are present in ocean water, and they've actually been demonstrated to be present in human blood as well. And so if they weren't necessary, we don't believe that they would be present in these really critical solutions, ocean water and human blood. And ultimately, as Dr. Murray and countless others have demonstrated, the presence of all of nature's minerals and trace elements really makes a critical difference in improving whatever it is that you are growing and raising. So Dr. Murray successfully demonstrated that ocean water could be an effective fertilizer for use throughout agriculture. And ultimately what he found is that if he was going to achieve his goal of really helping to remineralize the United States, he was going to need a more efficient way to do so. For any of us that are in logistics, and if you're in farming, you're in logistics, you know that shipping ocean water into America's heartland is not efficient. It's not possible to do that at scale. And so Dr. Murray knew that he needed an alternative. And so he searched around and he discovered that there is a way to concentrate ocean water's minerals and trace elements down into what he called sea solids, or what we call today an unrefined sea salt. And an unrefined sea salt is basically collecting ocean water and exclusively allowing the sun to dry it out so that you preserve those minerals and trace elements and don't destroy them with artificial heat. So Dr. Murray did a lot of work to identify the most efficient and the best source of those sea solids, and he found that there was a unique location in Baja, Mexico that resulted in the most mineral-dense sea solids that could be harvested year-round. And I'll show that here in a couple of slides. Dr. Murray ultimately selected this location and used this location for his sea solids as his trials expanded in size and location throughout not only America, but the world. This is a powerful energy source for all living things. I love this slide. On the right there, you have an electromagnetic microscope, I believe it is called, where you have a grain of sea solids, a grain of Sea-90 under the microscope, and you can see that there's this literal electricity resonating out from these sea solids. We truly believe that sea solids contain the electricity for cellular life, and whether that's your soil microbiome, your plant tissue, or human and animal health, these sea solids are an incredible energy source for that, and that's demonstrated here in this microscopic photo. And today, of course, these sea solids are known as Sea-90, but it is the same location and harvesting practices that were originally pioneered by Dr. Maynard Murray. So where is this in the world? If this is a map of the United States here, and on the far western part of the continent, we are looking at the Baja Peninsula in Mexico, and the Sea of Cortez, or the Gulf of California there in the on the western side of the continent is where we're going to be looking. And then these pictures get closer and closer. So the Baja Peninsula on the left there, we are now looking at the northwest part of the Sea of Cortez. And then as the pictures get closer and closer, you can see kind of where our mine and the overall estuary are for Sea-90. What's unique to point out here is that we are not harvesting ocean water from the ocean directly. What happens is that the tide actually brings in the Sea of Cortez across about 8 to 10 miles of alluvial topsoil, picking up additional minerals and trace elements and providing a filtration step along the way before it reaches our salt flats, where it is ultimately turned into sea solids. Dr. Murray discovered and identified this location as the preferred location because of 5 unique geological characteristics. The first is that the Sea of Cortez is a very mineral-rich body of water. It has a higher density of minerals and trace elements than other parts of the globe's oceans. In addition to that, because of where we are in the Sea of Cortez, for many thousands of years, the Colorado River would bring mineral deposits from the Rocky Mountains into the Sea of Cortez and create this almost brackish water mineral soup that was just more mineral dense than, again, traditional ocean water. The third thing is that we are right on top of the San Andreas fault line. And so there's a lot of tectonic plate movement and geothermal activity underneath this location that is pushing rare earth minerals up into the water, creating an even more dense mineral water for us to harvest. And then lastly, you have year-round high temperatures and minimal rainfall, so you can create a consistent product year-round. And it is a very pure and pollution-free environment. There's no industry in the area, and so we offer a very high-quality sea solid that can be used safely and effectively. On this next slide, you're going to see a photo of our salt flats. This is truly an awe-inspiring location in the world. I've been privileged to go there many times, and you almost feel like you are in a different world. It's almost like visiting the surface of the moon or something also out of this planet. You can see from here, you have all of these different geological pieces coming together. You have the Sierra Madre mountain range off in the distance. To the west of this photo, you would have the Sea of Cortez. And then here, of course, are our famous salt mines, our salt flats, or our retention ponds. Each one of this, I know it's hard to see on scale, but each one of these is about an acre in size or about a football field. So it's an incredible amount of salt. On this next slide here, we have some additional photos of the sea solids creation process. So those salt flats or retention ponds are flooded with fresh Sea of Cortez ocean water. Over a period of weeks, the high heat and the sun will dry out that moisture, and you'll see that eventually the salts will begin to crystallize, that water will dry out and you'll begin to crystallize, and ultimately what would be about 1 to 2 feet of ocean water will only result in several inches of sea salt. So it is a very long and extensive moisture drying process there. And then ultimately the sea salts are harvested for Sea-90 use. And you can see some photos there of Bob Kane staring at the salt that has been piled up there and some of the salt crystals in the hand there. It's this very light, flaky sea salt that has an incredible texture and taste to it, and of course a very mineral-rich composition there. Speaking of Bob Kane, following Dr. Maynard Murray's passing, the overall use of sea energy concepts really decreased significantly. There were a couple of different factors for this, but ultimately during the 80s, 90s, there really just was not a lot of use of sea solids. And so many throughout different agriculture communities were worried that these concepts might have been lost to time and history. But thankfully, in 2003, Dr. Murray's former protege, Robert Kane, actually launched Sea-Agri, and he resurrected this idea of sea solids from Baja and sea energy agriculture as a tool to remineralize our food supply. Over the next 15 years or so, Robert would really stand up an incredible business. He built a supply chain, a customer base with both English and Amish communities across the United States and even globally, and ultimately broadened the availability of Dr. Murray's core concepts well beyond anything that had taken place in the 70s and 80s. And we're proud and privileged to continue to have him as an advisor to Sea-Agri Solutions today. So this is where Sea-90 comes into play. Dr. Maynard Murray's original sea solids are now exclusively known as Sea-90 Ocean Minerals. We are the only company in the space that is using the exact location in the Baja that was originally identified by Dr. Maynard Murray. We have 90 plus minerals and trace elements, 5 times the mineral and trace element count of other competitors, and the lowest natural sodium levels of any salt available today. Our product is 99% water soluble, which allows it to be used in many different applications. And perhaps most importantly, because it is so water soluble, it has improved bioavailability against other types of salts like rock salts or earth salts. And our team has modern production facilities in Mexico to really perfectly balance that natural creation process with overall quality and consistency. The Sea-Agri line of products today does offer a complete ocean mineral solution for any type of agriculture, whether you are just doing raised beds in your garden all the way through 10,000 head of cattle roaming through our Great Plains. So we have products that will help supercharge your soil and balance your minerals. We're able to increase plant nutrient density through our liquid feed applications, and we support and improve on animal vitality with our premium mineral salt and our premium mineral salt with garlic. And with our animal products, we really believe and have been able to demonstrate that you can express the genetic potential of your animals when you are able to give them that complete spectrum of nature's minerals and trace elements. In addition to those products, we're also excited about continuing to expand ocean minerals capabilities. We have found over the last 5 years or so that you can take this ocean mineral and use it in different ways to continue to improve upon the health and vitality of our nation's food supply. So we have 3 new products in our liquid space today. We have our BioWave Max, which just launched this spring. This is a spore-based or an enzyme-based biostimulant product that includes, of course, Sea-90 ocean minerals, additional essential nutrients, humates, and spore-based microbes. We have a really exciting new concept called Lightning Rescue, and this is going to be a plant, root, and seed cleanse that is designed to help treat fungal outbreaks and challenges in the field. This is an electrolyzed mineral water that is built with Sea-90 ocean minerals. It's a really cool new concept, and we think it's going to dramatically change how people think about treating fungal outbreaks and challenges in that field. And then lastly, we have our liquid mineralizer concentrate. So if you do like using our foliar product, but need to do it in a more efficient way. We actually now reliquify and concentrate our Sea-90 ocean minerals into our liquid mineralizer concentrate for large-scale, efficient liquid applications. And we are committed to continuing to pursue Dr. Murray and Robert Kane's visions to remineralize our food supply. And we look forward to continue bringing new products and solutions to market that take that core concept of ocean mineralization and apply it to modern agriculture. So that's a little bit about Sea Agri and the current state of Sea-90. What I'd like to do now is I'm going to transition to Lynn, who's actually going to walk us through some specific use cases for Sea-90 in agronomy and animal husbandry today. We have some really compelling case studies that I think the team will find very interesting. And speaking of Lynn Hoover, I'm very proud to call Lynn Hoover a good friend of mine. We've been working together for several years, but his experience in this space in agriculture and in ocean minerals actually extends well beyond that. He's been working in this space for several decades, all the way from Pennsylvania through Oklahoma, and of course consulting throughout our country. So he has an incredible amount of knowledge in this space. He's really helped us kind of refine and rethink about how to best provide solutions for farmers throughout our country. And with that, I'm privileged to introduce Lynn and have him take it from here.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to be part of this today and everything that you guys bring here to the table. And hopefully we can help all the growers do better. As Michael said, my name's Lynn Hoover. I've been farming for in the ag space since I've been a little boy, but I mean, as an adult, you know, soon be 30 years, and been working with ocean minerals for longer than 20. So have lots of experience, both hands-on farming, agriculturally speaking, and then also as, you know, a consultant, if you will, all over the nation. So I've got to help growers improve a lot of things. I've got from Montana to Texas, Arizona, all the way back to the East Coast. I mean, everything is different everywhere you go in the country. I've studied really deep in the soil, the things that make it work and the imbalances that may already be there that we need to adjust. So just lots of really neat things I've been able to help a lot of growers with over this nation, and just continue to learn from them as well. And it's a great opportunity, and I'm glad I get to be a part of this here today. So moving on here. I try to keep things really simple for my growers. I feel that there's a lot of complexity in this arena nowadays. So I've tried to break it down into hopefully 3 really simple steps. Is we all know that the soil is alive and well under us. So I like to activate the native soil biology. I like to make sure our calcium is balanced, deliver some ocean minerals, because that is what fuels the soil microbiome. And then, you know, per soil test, depending on the cropping, you know, program, whatever, let's balance our NPK needs. So these 3 principles work together to create a very productive, profitable soil environment. You know, it's really simple, it's really easy, and we're going to show you today, you know, how easy this really is as a grower to accomplish, and you know, bring this all together. So 2 steps here. The first 2 steps is so Sea-90, as Michael mentioned earlier, it now has their very own enzyme spore-based soil conditioner, which the reason that's really important is all we have to do as growers is to stimulate and multiply out the native biology, okay? And then we're going to feed the entire soil microbiome, both the bacteria and the fungi. And that's going to cover the entire, you know, every strain that everyone talks about. I mean, it's going to multiply out per said crop, per said management practices on a said operation. The next thing we like to really do is to field broadcast, you know, that 100 to 150 pounds of dry spread Sea-90. That is going to be the connector and the fuel source to feed the entire microbiome and bring together all fertilized resources. You know, that could be residues, manures, tied up minerals, even fertility resources. And that's going to bring that all connection the same as it does in a cow's rumen. And it's going to work fantastic. We also have the option to, as Michael said there, to foliar feed. You can either dissolve your own, or we have liquid versions now. But the value of foliar feeding is if you are going to make a trip, is when we're doing forage, is that that influences your bricks, which is your overall mineral levels. It boosts the protein, the relative feed value, the overall TDN, and just that entire mineral profile. And for those in the arena of grass-fed dairies, grass-fed beef, the mineral density and the more energy and minerals that we pack into that forage, the greater success those operations will become. Then the second, another product is sometimes even with best laid plans, fungal diseases can rear their ugly heads, and so we've worked to find a very safe for the soil microbiome, as well as the plant, as well as the animal, as well as the end user that's going to consume that, maybe vegetable, produce, whatever it may be. And as Michael said, we're very excited about this. This is extremely safe. You can use it as a household cleaner, even it's that safe. It does a great job of suppressing disease, fungus, and it'll help the plant. And as Michael said, it's derived from Sea-90, so there's minerals coming through with it, which ultimately, if you have to use it, it'll ultimately raise the bricks of the plant. So we also have some, real live results and case studies. So what do we typically see from Sea-90 in the field? We're going to see improved fertility, efficiency, fertility retention, balance, better soil health structure, better water retention, efficacy. We're going to drive that natural nitrogen process to reduce our dependence on commercial nitrogens, and in some cases we can fully eliminate it. We're going to fuel and multiply that mycorrhiza fungi portion, which is what drives our phosphate availability, our water management, as well as carbon. As far as potassium goes, Sea-90 can what they call go under transmutation, and it can provide needed potassium for the crops, the soil as needed. Sea-90 is also very key for carbon sequestration, and especially when it's coupled with a great biostimulant. Sea-90, a lot of buzzword is carbon sequestration in today's agriculture. And your mineral salts from the ocean with Sea-90 are going to play a very key role at allowing that to happen for your soils. And I don't care, tillage, no tillage, cover crop, no cover crop. If you're a production farmer doing row crops and can't cover crop, I mean, this is very, very, very key. So, some other things, just moving on here to like some forage tests in the world of livestock. Here again, worked with dairy my whole life, still do. I really get excited about the value that sea minerals bring to any class of livestock, really, but especially your ruminant classes. It's gonna build a better structured crude protein. As you increase that mineral and nutrient density of forage, you're going to see your feed efficiency increase by 10 to 20%, which what that means is that's less needed pounds of grass or forage to feed that said animal for the same or better production. Okay. And with good management, we're going to see improved protein, TDN, RFE, your energy levels. If you're in that, here again, whether you're in the grain-fed or grass-fed arena, your energy levels of your forage are super key to milk production or rate of gain to your livestock. So, and the way that happens is the sea minerals are mobilizing calcium and phosphate, and that mobilization of phosphate is very key that's what's putting your energy into your grasses and your minerals. And so, if we go down here, as you can see on the chart, under NEL, I kind of go at it from the dairy side. I mean, this particular forage test was 0.7 energy. There's a lot of corn silages out there, and it depends on how high you're cutting it and whatnot. But I mean, corn silage itself could be 0.73. So I mean, we're really close to the same energy as feeding something like a corn silage. And what that means is you can feed a straight, well-energized grass correctly grown agronomically using sea minerals, and get very good rates of gain without using grain and meeting your market criteria that you're trying to chase. Other thing is on the potassium side, I like to keep potassium low or not even applied in a pasture or hay situation. I like to make sure there's very adequate calcium and calcium availability. I'd like to be very generous with our sea mineral applications. As we said earlier, salt can transmutate and create potassium. Potassium is what drives the lignin into your crops. If it's a natural God-given number, I mean, we're okay. But if you're applying loads of potassium to your forages, you're slowing yourself way down, driving your lignin, which is lowering your energy, your digestibility, and your rate of gains or milk production. So lots of neat things there. If you go over to the mineral and ash profile there, typically if you look here also, just to describe this out, these analysis are actually from Rock River Labs there out of Wisconsin. So the first column is this particular test. The second column is a 60-day average of a similar class forage that they brought into their lab. And then the third column is the 4-year average of similar said forage tests, that's gone through their laboratory. So if you look at the calcium levels there, we're at 1.22, which, we're really close. We're a little better in the 60-day there by 100th of a point. Real close to the 4-year average. For phosphorus, though, we're even higher. So that's going to equate to energy into that animal. Magnesium is important because that's what causes, good, healthy blood flow, muscle action, reduces your respiratory problems in the animal, pneumonia, and etc. Your potassium, I'd like to really see the calcium to potassium ratio here to be a 1-to-2, or in some cases even a 1-to-1. And the closer they are together, the greater the mineral density of the entire forage feed stuff, and the greater the feed efficiency keeps coming for the animal. So those are kind of the, you can look at that matters. And then obviously, going back over to your ADF, NDF, I mean, that's your fiber digestibility, as most folks know. And so that's really important, as the final leg of your management system. So there's, how we kind of manage from the ground up to get, maximum milk production, maximum rate of gain, maximum feed efficiency just from the forage alone before you have to reach for any other feedstuffs. And like I said earlier, if you're a grass milk producer or a grass-fed a beef finisher, I mean, this stuff becomes super important if you're going to be extremely successful at getting your animals to finish and produce, equivalent to the rest of the industry. Moving on here to the next one, we got this is here. After all the numbers, we just like to put things in color. So here we got a dashboard. Crude protein. This was alfalfa, was on the high side, which was really good. Our FV was really good. Our NDF digestibility exceeded the goal that they set, as ADF was right there too, which is good fiber digestibility. So to put it in color, I mean, it was really hitting the marks there very well. Moving on to grains and row crop production, if you will here. So in row crop production, we definitely see improved grain quality, test weights, overall plant health. We are typically reducing commercial N applications. We're replacing 50% of all potassium needs, in some cases 100%. Depends on soil tests and the rest of the management system, especially if there's manure or livestock, manure in the system. We're definitely going to improve phosphorus uptake, and especially now including the biostimulant side in conjunction with the Sea-90, the Sea-90 actual itself, we can really reduce our phosphate applications as well, because as the more alive that mycorrhiza is, the more phosphate is available, and phosphate is technically a catalyst, which means the large portion can be recycled, so it shouldn't be disappearing. It's going to be used some, but it shouldn't be disappearing at great rates in the soil. So in our row crop production, we can definitely become way more efficient with our fertility resources, and that drives overall plant health and grain quality. And here again, I don't have numbers on this on paper for this presentation, but because it's a little bit harder to benchmark for guys. But I mean, when you start feeding that into livestock systems, that becomes more efficient as well, whether it's pigs, chickens, cattle, or whatever you're feeding. So the Sea-90 benefits to grains, small grains, and into an entire agronomy system becomes very key. It really helps drought tolerance as well. And I'll just make this side note here real quick, just to understand, in the world of row crops. So the more traits or the more genetic modification that a plant has, the less mineral uptake it has. And a hybrid will take up more than a genetically modified trait, and then an heirloom crop or an old world genetics, if you will take up the most minerals. So that's important to know as you're farming and trying to do things for grass-fed cattle, in that arena, because the more traits that stuff has in, the less minerals it can uptake, and the more dependent you will have to be on supplementation, mineral supplementation, and even grain and energy and protein supplementation. So important area when you're growing row crops. So moving on here to an actual soil test, and these are general trends. And as everyone knows, you're going to see different things happen based on weather, rotation, and other management practices. So here we got, and we just kind of had to abbreviate. OM here means ocean mineral, and the bottom one there is no ocean mineral. So this was done a side by side. We saw a boost in organic matter there a little bit. We saw a boost in phosphorus availability, potassium, calcium. Let's see, moving across there, we did raise the pH there. We even boosted our holding capacity there at the CEC. We moved on a percent-based saturation. We actually moved all them numbers up there in the potassium, mag, and calcium category. The sodium obviously went up in it as well, which sodium is your holding power for your nutrients. And then moving down there to the bottom section on the nitrogen category, we went from 54 pounds in the soil of the whatever's going on in the microbiome up to 79. So that was a good little boost. Zinc on this one rose considerably. I will say that we typically see zinc raise almost 99% of the time. This one here raised extremely high. I don't really know why it was that high, but I will tell you, when you dry spread Sea-90, it does huge things for zinc, which automatically converts over to phosphate availability, which is huge. And typically we'll see a little bit of manganese, iron, copper, boron charge there. Sometimes they're bigger. Sometimes they're really small. I have seen them flat, but generally speaking, it does upward trend that. And that's where we're getting a lot of fertility, efficiency, and retention out of this program into a whole system of management. So, like in soybeans and legumes, we definitely see an increased number of nodes on the main stem, improved blossom retention and seed size. And how this is happening is your calcium availability, which Sea-90 is great at mobilizing calcium. That is what determines your number of sets or nodes going up your main stem in any legume. Your blossom retention is very phosphate related or energy related, if you will. And that is Sea-90 feeding your mycorrhiza. So you're going to see more blossoms be able to be retained. And then increase your seed size is just because we are moving more calcium, potassium availability. Potassium actually bulks at the final leg of the race, but calcium adds your weight and size as well. And then also, if you see a blank pod or even tip back on your corn or wheat or anything, that is a phosphate deficiency. And so as we're moving more phosphate, you will see less blank pods in your soybeans. Moving on to just one more soil test here to just, I guess kind of just reiterate what we've seen. And there are some differences here, so we'll point out. So we just labeled it salt versus control on this one. And as you can see, the organic matter was very high on this one. We did move our phosphorus up, our potassium went up on this one, our calcium went up. If you'll notice on the parts per million, we went up. But on our percent-based saturation over here, we actually went down, which is a good thing. We went from 83 to 79. So I put this in here on purpose to point out, if we have excesses, I have seen it govern things back, which is good, because anything excessive can create problems. Okay. And calcium being over 75% base saturation does start to pose a new set of problems, which is different than when we don't have enough calcium. So anytime we're very, very high calcium, the mineral salts become extremely important because we got to knock that off the colloid and rebalance that base saturation. But moving out across there, we definitely move some more potassium, magnesium. We got calcium more in line and in check. Our sodium numbers at 2.8, which is a good number. That means even more holding capacity. Moving down here to the lower side to where the nitrates are, or nitrogen, we went from 40 to 86, and that's a huge number of just nitrogen being made from the soil microbiome. The highest number I've ever seen benchmark was actually in Kansas, was 189. And so there's an extreme amount of ability to process nitrogen from the air for grass plants. And if you get into the biodiversity side, it gets even more exciting yet. In this case, we move sulfur up. Zinc in this one actually came down 1/10 of a part per million, which, like I said, once in a great while, we do see it drop just a teeny tiny bit. But nonetheless, per Midwest Labs here, they're calling it high regardless. So as long as we're in the adequate zone, nothing there to worry about. Our manganese, it went up a little bit. It's good. Iron's good. Copper's good. And our boron is still low. But however, not near, it actually was exactly the same. It's still, we weren't really better or worse on paper. What I found with boron with Sea-90 is, and this is largely from scouting in lots of alfalfa fields and even soybean fields, is boron is typically adequately supplied when you dry spread 100 pounds of Sea-90. And we know that because if you go into alfalfa fields, your stems, if they're solid, means you have enough boron. If they're hollow, that means we still haven't met the mark yet. Some of that's going to be weather dependent. The more rain you have, the faster boron's moving. The more nitrogen it's free floating around in any said system will lower your boron availability / uptake. And so those are all factors to be considered too. But with these soil tests, the general trend is that we see is better fertility retention, better nutrient availability, better ratio balance. And I've seen a lot of, we work with a lot of really tough soils across this country and saw some really neat stuff, be possible and be able to be fixed and corrected to help producers, meet their goals. So we've put together, just some soil tips and guidelines just to try to, help, bring this together. So most people know that calcium is very important. It's the king, if you will, because your available calcium determines your total volume of yield in both plants and animals. So anything we do to mobilize calcium is extremely important. And I'll say this because this is the best kept secret in agriculture is calcium don't move without biology, and it does not move without salt. Okay. So your mineral salts are key at making calcium mobile. Okay. Because calcium is a very lazy nutrient. It's even a dead nutrient, unless we're using something like aragonite. But it's a very dead nutrient, and it is very hard to move. And so we need to do as much as we can from biology and to also chemistry. Every fertility source must go through a biological process. That's why we want to keep the soil alive. We apply phosphates first. That retains the most nutrients in the soil, then calcium. Skipping down through there just a little bit. So bacteria manages your nitrogen. Your fungi manages your phosphate. Every nutrient enters in the phosphate form. So that's important there. Ocean minerals are the key to unlock the enzymatic function of the plants. It's just like in a cow's rumen. We feed salt to cattle because that is what fuels and multiplies the rumen microbiome. And connects it to all the feedstuffs. The mineral salts of Sea-90 to the soil are doing the exact same thing to the soil microbiome, fueling and multiplying it, connecting it to all the resources. So we got the biological sequence of nutrient uptake. So boron kind of is the first domino to fall. Moves silicon, which is the upward flow of nutrients. That now links with calcium. Nitrogen is our electrolyte. Magnesium is what turns the plant green. And now we connect the phosphate, which now we have calcium phosphate with all the nutrients entered in the phosphate form to form carbon, which is liquid sugars. which makes everything function, and potassium is the final and easiest one to move in a plant. So we like to see just some simple guidelines for soils, the cal to mag ratio of 8:1 to 5:1, with a calcium base saturation target of 65 to 75, mag around 10 to 18. And we like to see P2 leading P1 by 1.5 to double. And on sodium, we like to see 1 to 3% base saturation. And I will tell everyone that your percent base saturation, your cation exchange capacity, does more to tell you what's going on with soil than any other test you could ever spend money on, and here's why. Just like balancing a cal ration. If you get the ratios right of the energy, the protein, the mineral profile, everything else is going to self-balance in that cal. It's really that simple. And a lot of folks are chasing a lot of things on soil tests and this and that and the other, and that's fine to a point. What you got to remember is if you understand these targets that we're talking about here and these percent base saturations and what the key trigger points are, all that other stuff will self-balance all by itself, and this gets really easy and it gets really fun. So here's some just field photos, and these are very from days gone by. We got Mr. Kane there in the upper left. I mean, just showing some of the very early days that stuff he's been doing. You got some hayfield side by sides there. Definite root growth differences. Sea-90 versus no Sea-90. There's even some lawn there that looks like he was playing with. Another thing to understand on this root growth thing, folks, is you have to understand that when you have that much root growth and all this carbon sequestration goals that people have, is that root growth can be as high as 10, 15, 20 more tons of carbon just from root mass alone in a said grass crop, and that would include corn and milo, under our feet, versus if you just have that control on the side with a little, tiny root system. So if you guys really want to be rebuilding soil health, I mean, the sea mineral, stimulation of roots, calciums, and all that biostimulant stuff, like with the wave product, that is really, really important if you want to rebuild soil and do it, in a big way and really speed the process. Moving on to livestock here real quick. So we have our premium mineral salt and we have our garlics. And garlic is basically reducing our fleas, flies, ticks, lice, stuff like that. Garlic's been working extremely well. Most producers are using it in the summertime or giving us, very good reports back. Big question is, will garlic make the beef taste funny? No, it will not. Nor will it make a dairy cow produce, funny tasting milk if you're, selling milk to whether it's the co-op or raw milk. It will not go through in a negative way to affect your taste of your end product. But very, very good. It's going to improve, your feed efficiency, overall cow health, cow cooling in the summer. We're going to reduce pink eye, foot rot, and it's hard to put numbers on veterinary medication costs, if a herd's healthy. But to a grower with problems, I mean, we do have a number, I'm sure. You're going to increase fertility, conception rates, and just improve that fresh thing, live birth weights, just overall calf vitality, and really reduce the respiratory, challenges in cattle. 99% of all respiratory challenges in cattle come from there's not enough magnesium available to the cow and calcium fast enough. And sea minerals, all this brine tank talk, Alfred sea minerals, whenever you move cattle, especially long locations, is super key, super successful to lowering the challenge and the problem to all those respiratory issues in livestock. So if Sea-90 is not part of your mineral program, we're not asking you to replace your mineral program, although some growers do, and that's your call. But we are going to emphasize that this is very, very key component to your herd if you're looking to reduce respiratory issues and other issues in your herds, because the more minerals and magnesium that's correctly flowing and calcium through them animals, I mean, they're just going to push off a whole host of just problems that come with a lot of medication. So. And here's just some testimonials. I mean, I personally got, lots of testimonials of my own self, but I mean, lots of growers, they sprayed it on their crops, they sprayed it on their grass. I get lots of reports back that, better milk production, the milk tastes better in the world of livestock, the meat tastes better. Got people saying, just all across the country, it's some of the best products they've ever, ate from an animal, could even be eggs and other types of meat. The other thing is it just really helps the overall efficiency of the entire operation to rely on less feed. It's better animal cooling in the summer. You just better all reduced in all your needs for either medication or supplement. Probably one of the best stories I have is out here in Oklahoma, and great rancher I work with. He applied the Sea-90 dry, and he called me the next spring, and he said that was the least amount of protein supplementation and molasses tubs he ever had to put out, because the grass and the hay that he grew that previous year was so much better grown that the cattle were just looking for less stuff. And so that was a great testimonial from him that really made me excited, and was glad to have the opportunity to work with him. So I guess from here, I'm going to turn it back to Michael, and appreciate you guys this time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lynn. I really appreciate that. As you can see, there are a significant number of use cases for Sea-90 throughout modern agriculture, but we continue to be focused on this chain here. Soil health, plant health, and animal health leads to improved human health, which was ultimately Dr. Maynard Murray's goal, and we're super excited to be able to play a role in bringing that mission forward to modern agriculture. So just to close, again, our purpose is to improve our collective health and wellness through the vitality of the ocean and those ocean minerals. Sea-90 plays a critical role in that, not only in regenerative agriculture, but throughout all of agriculture. And just a small plug here, if you are looking for that final link to human health, please be sure to check out our sister brand, Baja Gold Salt Company. All of the great benefits of Sea-90 for your cattle are equally applicable to Baja Gold for human health and wellness, so be sure to check that out. I'll leave this here. I believe the slides will be posted, but if you do like what you heard today, there are a couple of great books to read, some additional prior presentations, including an audio recording from Dr. Maynard Murray, and then 4 wonderful Working Cows episodes that we would highly recommend taking a look at or taking a listen to. And with that, we'll leave it here for Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Let's go first. We'll go through quickly some of these questions. Clay asks, what are the advantages of foliar mineralizer versus soil mineralizer? When is one more appropriate than the other?
So your dry applied will do the most to move the soil test numbers and give you long-term effect for your operation. Your liquids and your foliars will give you a very good immediate crop benefit for that said crop, and is typically the most affordable, but it doesn't have as long a residual into the soil as what the dry spread does.
That might be a good time to say, you guys we have a rotational grazing operation at our farm here where Acres is at. Do you want to talk about, Lynn, a little bit what program you guys have put together for us?
Yeah, so basically we got some different trials set up here with Taylor at his farm, and we're going to be doing some dry trials out there spread, and I think he's might be doing some foliar stuff with the BioWave and some other things, and then I guess you're going to try to benchmark and do some rotational grazing, and I guess we're going to pull some soil tests and just try to benchmark with the animals best of our ability, what we can learn here in a said year, maybe some subsequent years, and just see what we can learn and with what you got going at your operation.
And then you recommend the foliar spraying happening throughout the year, if you after a graze or after a hay crop.
Yes. So anytime that we graze or flash graze or even mow a crop, I mean we've hauled a lot of energy off of that field, if you will, to either the cow or the barn, and so in order to revitalize it very quickly, that is a prime time to put some foliar out there to reinvigorate that young new shoot of grass or alfalfa, whatever we're growing, to regrow quickly and just get going again very quick, very fast.
Got it. John from Australia, can you list the chemical elements in seawater?
That's a great question. We do have robust mineral analysis on the Sea-90 website, so definitely take a look at those. And then the sea water itself, I believe that analysis is on there. There was an image of that in the presentation here as well, and I can make sure that we get that to you. Yeah.
Awesome. I have a Clay asks, I have a client wanting to know about iodine in salt for healing foot rot in cattle. What are the challenges presented by adding iodine to salt? Does Sea-90 Ocean Minerals Premium Mineral Salt help with bringing balance to help heal foot rot?
So yes, so iodine and calcium are going to play a definite role in foot rot. Also, on the physical side is if you can get them cows to drier or more well drained soil during the wet times. You can add iodine to Sea-90 if you don't feel you got enough in your operation. Kelp, that's where kelp would come in. That's a good, if you're trying to be natural source of iodine. It's very high in iodine, or you can reach for iodine blocks. Typical in dairies, if you're doing the udder prep with iodine, I mean that feeds the dairy side really easy. But that's my iodine recommendations.
Got it. We'll keep rolling here. Billy from Nebraska, any special application of Sea-90 instructions for perennial plants in sandy soil? Best results would be appreciated.
Yeah, so sand, the challenge with sand is there's very low holding capacity. Mineral salt has the highest holding capacity, so dry spread on sand is you'll get the highest effect out of Sea-90. And there's where I'd even be more aggressive with your application rates of even 200 pounds is really good, and you'll get the greatest effects out of your sandy soil doing that.
Mark from Oklahoma asks, can this be mixed with other nutrients?
Yes. Is it dry or liquid? Or maybe he didn't specify. So yes, we can on the dry side, yes, it can be blended with other fertilizers. I will say this, if you're going to blend it with other fertilizers, Sea-90 is very energized, as is other fertilizers is. So when you blend it off, make sure you're going to the field to go spread it. Don't mix it and let it sit till the next morning. On your liquids, yes, it'll blend with, there's nothing that I'm aware of that liquid Sea-90, LMC, or the foliar mineralizer will not blend with. And it's not going to hurt anything biologically. Or NPK wise or trace element wise, it should be 2 thumbs up with everything there.
Got it. How can Sea-90 be used in organic pot culture in a nursery?
Best way is if you're doing the liquid side, we'd like to dissolve 1 level tablespoon of Sea-90 into the solution, and that can be either sprayed or fed drip. If you're doing dry, we never want to do more than 1 pound per 50 square feet.
So I think we figured everything out. Perfect.
Craig asked, you mentioned the calcium to magnesium ratio in the forage. What was that ratio?
I like to see, it was actually the calcium to potassium ratio is what I was really emphasizing there. I like to see at least a calcium to potassium of 1 to 2. And if it's 1 to 1, it's even better. That's really hard to achieve. But if it's at least 1 to 2, you're good. The industry standard, if you look at most industry forages, it's 1 to 4, or 1 to 3 to 1 to 4 on your alfalfas and grasses. So we're just pulling that up a little bit tighter.
Craig asked, how does it relate to kelp products and as a plant growth stimulant?
So kelp is actually, I mean, I'm going to say we're different than kelp. I mean, kelp is a plant, okay, that's harvested a lot of and condensed a lot of minerals out of the ocean water, and kelp has a place. I mean, I like kelp where it fits in any agronomy program or livestock program. However, don't confuse them. They're not the same as far as, products. The sea mineral is going to be a mineral salt that is going to be a fuel source and connector for microbiome of the soil and the cattle. Whereas your kelps are going to be it's a green plant, if you will. So it's a forage within of itself to the cow or the rumen or even the soil. And it's going to bring its own unique things to the soil. And I would encourage, growers to, use both at their discretion. But they are different just to clarify.
William from Georgia asked, I've used this, but I'm concerned about putting it out for too many years in a row. How do we know when it's too much, hopefully before everything dies?
So that percent-based saturation is, like I said, that is the most important soil test you can ever take, because if that's in balance, everything else is going to be good. So as long as our sodium does not cross that 1 to 3% range, 3% being the ceiling, and if your calcium's between 65 and 75%, you still got the green light to move ahead. If that sodium number starts climbing really, really high, then you can run into trouble at some point. But that's how we know.
And just to add there, we have been working with farmers and producers for ourselves for 5 years and Robert for 20 years, and we have had zero challenges with anyone broadcasting this on an annualized basis. And if you do read Sea-Energy Agriculture, you'll see that what we recommend is incredibly conservative relative to Dr. Murray's trials. He was broadcasting actually up to 10 times the amount of Sea-90 that we recommend, and he did not have any challenges himself. So we feel very confident that our protocols can be used year after year.
I think this
Correct,
question is related to the soil test that you were showing. On the grains, what was the rate of application? Was the impact from one application or multiple, and how much time between the soil tests?
So between the soil tests would have been, we pulled soil tests as close as 90 days and as far out as a year. And all those applications were one application at 100 pound a acre is what we were applying.
Here is more of a comment. Clay said, popcorn popped in coconut oil and topped with Baja Gold sea salt is a great afternoon snack. Michael, do you want to talk about you guys' consumer side where you have the table salt?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Clay. Appreciate that. It is delicious. So Baja Gold is our human health and wellness product. So really funny story there. For 10 years or so, Robert Kane was just selling the Sea-90 ocean minerals for agriculture. And I guess he had enough farmers that came to him and said, I love, taking a pinch of the salt under my tongue on a hot summer day while I'm working in the fields. I try to bring it into my kitchen to cook with, and the dusty big cattle mineral bag, I guess, wasn't well received. So he was told, you got to make a human version of this that I can bring into my home without getting yelled at. And so Robert said, okay, we can do that. So we came up with Baja Gold mineral sea salt. So Baja, of course, because it's made in Baja, Mexico, and gold because it is the gold standard of mineral sea salts. So Baja Gold has all of the incredible mineral properties of Sea-90. It has 75% sodium chloride, which is 20 to 25% lower than traditional table salt or rock salt, including pink Himalayan, etc. So it's a much healthier form of salt, and then it also has all of that capacity populated by minerals and trace elements. So significantly higher magnesium, potassium, calcium, and all of your trace minerals for human health and wellness versus other salts. So if you are using like a table salt, we would encourage try Baja Gold in all of your cooking and baking. And there recently has even been a push around using Baja Gold for hydration, similar to if you might be familiar with like a liquid IV or something like that, or an element stick pack. A lot of those products that are on the market today are just salt. That is the secret there. Electrolyte is a word that just refers to macro minerals. Electrolytes are not a proprietary thing made by Gatorade or anyone else. Electrolytes are just sodium, magnesium, potassium, calcium, and sulfur. So you can get a lot of that electrolyte in a very affordable mineral sea salt with Baja Gold. Like Clay said, you can cook with it. You can top popcorn with it. We offer a couple of other products on our website as well. So please take a look at that if you are interested in bringing that kind of ocean mineral mission into your kitchen as well.
Awesome. I think this probably is related to, just getting the sea from the ocean. How do you guys combat or remove microplastics?
So we take all contaminants very seriously for Sea-90 and for Baja Gold. So we have robust filtration processes to remove contamination from the ocean. We also are located in a very clean and pristine part of the world. I've been there personally, and I'll tell you, this is not the Pacific Ocean where you see things like, more contamination and whatnot. We have the protection of the Sierra Madre Mountains for any airborne challenges. And the Baja Peninsula, of course, is about 1,000 kilometers from the Pacific Ocean as well. So the Sea of Cortez is a very clean body of water. We have both natural and man-made filtration that occurs, and we have continued to modernize and update all of our equipment and processing so that we are following all of the appropriate and best-in-class agriculture grade and human grade standards for Sea-90 and for Baja Gold.
Nick asks, have you tested the lightning rescue for perennial crop fungal protection, specifically with grapes?
We specifically have not tested it on grapes. We've done a lot on tomatoes, let's see, strawberries, corn, wheat, soybeans, alfalfa. Not specifically on grapes, but I mean, it would work there too. It's very gentle. A lot of people, worry about messing up leaves and stuff, but no, it's very gentle on the plant. And will not be harsh in any way to create leaf curl or burn.
And
Okay, we'll do a
I
couple
should say for everything in general, and especially high value crops, if you are interested in any of our programs and you'd like to speak with us, we would be more than happy to create a custom trial program for you and work with you to ensure that you feel comfortable and that we deliver and unlock the best results. So please feel free to reach out to us directly with any more specific program considerations.
We'll do two more questions. Largest difference between sea-based salt products and land-based salt products, especially when it comes to nutrient use within the soil, biological associations, and plant health.
So that one's actually real easy and real fun. So and this goes back to like your percent-based saturation. So Sea-90 is 75% sodium chloride. That means the other 25% of that is filled with minerals. Okay. You go to a table salt or other land-based salts, I mean, they're somewhere in that 95, 7, 8, 99%. So you have maybe 1 to 5% minerals. And so that's a huge difference because this is about mineral salts. The other thing is coming out of a living ocean, you have a living salt, as Michael showed there earlier. And that mineral matrix is the exact God-given mineral matrix that ruminants are looking for and the soil microbiome is looking for. Whereas your mine salts or land-based salts have very low minerals and they're technically a dead salt. Still going to get some connection air, but you're not going to get the full microbiome activity out of the soil or the cow the same way Sea-90 will bring it to it.
And to build on that, there also is a significantly more rapid solubility with our salt, and that's kind of what Lynn is alluding to with it being a living salt. It goes into solution much more completely and much more rapidly, which is beneficial for the soil microbiome and the animal's rumen as well. So if you're feeding this to your animals, you're going to see it dissolve in your brine tank immediately. You're going to see it go into solution in the rumen immediately as well for much faster bioavailability for your animals. And actually,
And
sorry,
final-
one other thing that's, sorry to cut you off, Taylor, but
You're right.
I always recommend, especially for mineral salts for animals, take a look at the guaranteed analysis as well for Sea-90 versus other competitors. So that's going to be on the back of the bag that you can take a look at the actual guaranteed levels. There are certain rock salts, for example, you can, I believe it is magnesium, potassium, and sulfur. There is as much magnesium, potassium, and sulfur in 7 pounds of Sea-90 versus 50 pounds of a rock salt competitor. So it comes down to density per gram. And so while a bag, might have a different cost structure, if your animal is consuming different quantities, the actual overall value is significantly higher for Sea-90.
Awesome. All right, final comment, kind of question. When is your antifungal product coming? I think it could be a lifesaver for microgreens.
It is available in prototype and trial phase now. We are going through all of the proper registrations for that as well. We plan to have that available at broad scale for full-scale commercial and regenerative agriculture this summer. But if you are interested in doing some trials, please reach out to us. We are primarily focused on large-scale, 275-gallon IBCs. but we do know there's an application for smaller use cases as well, like microgreens, and so we'd love to work with you.
Awesome. Anything else you guys would like to wrap it up with? Where should people head to get in contact with your team?
Sure. So first of all, thank you all for being here today. Really appreciate the time during the workday. You can reach us at sea90.com. That's SEA-90.com. You can email us at hello@sea-90.com. And then I think we can put some show notes with phone numbers and whatnot. The Sea-90 phone number is on our website. It is 770-361-6092. And Lynn's phone number is 717-580-1458. But if you didn't have your pen ready, we'll make sure we get that information out to everyone. And again, just on behalf of our team, our whole family, thank you all so much for being here, and we hope to work with you in the future.
Yeah, thank
Absolutely.
you.
And we'll make sure you guys keep an eye out for your email when we send over the recording link. We'll make sure to include some of these contact options in there. Just an update from Acres. This event probably would be of interest to anyone on here. We have a one-day cattle management intensive July 11th in Viroqua, Wisconsin, with Will Winter, Steve Campbell, and Gary Zimmer. And they'll be talking about strategies for improving herd fertility, mineralization, grazing efficiency, and livestock soil synergy. And I think Steve and Will both work with you guys and are highly recommending Sea-90 salt. So,
Absolutely. Great partners, and we appreciate their support.
all right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a great day and enjoy your spring.